Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 35. As said in the last outing, today we will get started on the steel mill. It will still take us a little bit to finish up the bridges and roads we need to reach the construction site, but once we do, we will get going with the planning. Unfortunately, it will be a complex beast to tackle, so we will only manage to get most of the iron mining operation wrapped up. And even that I am not entirely sure is as good as it can be in the end. While we wait for the bridges to be completed, we will tinker around a little bit with the vehicle maintenance office, so hopefully we can keep our fleet of machinery in better working order, and we will also build a second one in the new town, so we can keep things rolling in that part of the country too. The main problem is still the fact that maintenance trucks don't wait for vehicles to return to their bases, and give up way too easily. Before we get started, if this is not your first video from this channel, you already know what to expect. If you want to be kept up to date, please consider subscribing, and if you like what you see, leaving a like will also help letting me know what to focus on. But enough talking, let's get into it. First, let's fix those microbuses we bought in the last episode. I accidentally gave them the wrong orders, and now they are back in the road depot. Let's make sure we do it right this time. We delete the depot order from the list, which was generated automatically as they went out for a refuel when we bought them. They will need to move workers between the new town and the nearby CO, so we can make some asphalt and concrete locally. We should also sort out some of the line naming. We have a couple new ones that are still using the default names. Also, I finally got around to mixing up the music selection a little bit. I wanted to go for some of the more uplifting and lighthearted tunes we have in the game's soundtrack. Sadly, the songs that were added to the OST not too long ago did not qualify for this, so I ended up leaving those out. Now that the foliage is more grown up, we can make another pass at plugging the gaps in the plant coverage around the place. Okay, the rail tracks should be pretty clear of potential falling branches. Let's move on. This is where I decided to try to do something about these pesky harvesters. They simply cannot stand still, even at 100% damage, and the maintenance trucks are way too impatient to wait for them to go home. For now, we can send the most damaged ones to the road depot, but we really need to find a better way of dealing with them. I also noticed a couple power symbols in the distance while waiting for the harvesters. It seems our 15 megawatt power lines are getting close to being insufficient for our current needs. We might need to consider either building another connection, or connecting up to an existing one, and splitting the current network in half. Technically, we could build a gas power station in the current oil fields, but this is not down to power generation, but the throughput of the network. Plus I rather wait for a coal power plant at this point, which we can place next to the steel mill, since we will have coal there. Maybe we should try to build a road depot that is directly attached to the maintenance garage. That might force the harvesters to be fixed up completely. But the garage we have is way too boxed in, and I didn't feel like messing with the roads today. For now, I just set the maintenance threshold higher, so things get fixed more frequently. At first I set it to 70%, but that was the wrong way. We need to set the maintenance target lower, not higher. Obviously, all the trucks with dedicated routes will make a pit stop at the garage to be fixed up, so the place will be quite busy for a while. I was hoping the harvesters would make it onto the list early, but they were not added, so I just sent them back to the farm. They are needed there. Since we need to have a garage in this area too, we should not wait until things get too worn down and build an office right now. It obviously best placed inside the city limits, so we can deal with the staffing from local residences. The island is quite packed already, so building the garage next to the bridge seemed like a decent place, even if it required a bit of terraforming. Same as the old one, this one will also get a small warehouse extension, so it will have a more steady access to small components and other materials. Alright, the road bridge is almost done. It's already being paved. Now it just needs a bit of smoothing from a roller, and it's open for business. And speaking of roads, I decided to start upgrading some of the streets in the new town. We just need to make sure vehicles and pedestrians are not obstructed from reaching important buildings, and we should be okay. At last, we have access to the other side of the river. Well, almost. We still need to deal with one road to be done, but we really are in the final stretch. I don't think we will build lap posts along the outermost streets, but these central roads definitely need to be lit during the night. I was a tiny bit overzealous with the upgrades here, and managed to block in some of the houses. Thankfully, we just need to add a small footpath once we start getting notifications about it. There it is. These blocks can no longer access the town services. But a temporary footpath will take care of that. After speeding up the recovery to make sure it's all fixed, we can move on. With the kindergarten finished, we can open up the new apartment blocks. Even though they will be empty for a while, thanks to the low population we have available to move in. While we wait for people to settle in, we can deal with the garbage collection. I forgot to include this in the last episode, so we really need to take care of it now. I'm quite surprised how fast these roads are being upgraded. They took quite a while in Dolny, and the resources were much closer there. I was afraid of this. The first fire that managed to demolish a building. And it's one of the oil pumps. To be honest, it was bound to happen sooner or later. Some of the buildings simply have too little structural integrity, and even the smallest of fires will topple them in a very short amount of time. Even the super-fast helicopters couldn't save it. And yes, it was well maintained, I'm sure. If the construction offices couldn't reach the oil wells, they would have collapsed from natural decay multiple times by now. Anyways, time to move up the construction outposts, so we can start planning that steel mill at last. Well, time to get to work. As always, we start by creating a nice flat area we can work on. Even the terrain looks happy we finally got to this point. Okay, this is taking ages. I think I will call in the other 2 bulldozers from the local CO hub, just to make things a bit faster. Also, these offices shouldn't really bother with nearby constructions, they should stay put. Well, I don't mind the excavators going off. They are only needed to flatten the terrain when we place buildings, and we are not at that part yet. As I suspected, the iron deposits are too far away from the outpost. Time to bring them even closer. Not happy about it, but we can temporarily block these little side rivers. We should only move the offices themselves. The gas station can stay there, it's close enough to not worth the effort. First things first, we need to find a spot that gives the most amount of yield from the local deposits. It seems 45% is about the best we can eke out around these parts. If absolutely necessary, we can build more mines, but I think a 45% one will be enough. Yeah, 45 seems to be the maximum. Next, the regular cable car station. This will handle the workers and the garbage deliveries. Just to be extra sure we can actually do this, I checked the different cable car types we have available, and it seems we are in luck, and we can use both aggregate and waste cars for this. There was no way I would get to the point where we could get started on the coal, it was simply too far away, so I just placed the first roads leading to it, and left it at that. For a little bit I did consider using roads to bring up the workers to the mine, but in the end, I didn't like all the red contour lines left after smoothing, and building a serpentine road all the way up the mountain would have been extremely inefficient, so I opted to leave it up to the cable cars. Next, let's start dealing with the drop-off stations at the bottom. For a little bit, I was getting a bit confused about how the aggregate stations were separate from the regular cable car stations. This is what's called YouTuber vision. It's kind of like tunnel vision, but it only affects content creators, and makes them forget how stuff works from time to time. At least that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. Ah, there they are. The aggregate stations. Only needed to read the labels. Now it should be more obvious what needs to be done. Well, here comes the most fiddly part of building a cable car route. The towers. It is a bit of a gamble whether or not they can connect up to each other sometimes. Also, the nighttime visibility makes it hard to see whether the cable is green or red, so had to fast forward a couple times. The most annoying part is making turns. And if you think this is bad, just wait until I try to make a turn for the aggregate station on top. Now, this is the part that I am not proud of. I will waste quite a bit of time attempting to make the towers make a sharp turn coming out of the aggregate station on top. I could have just flipped the building around, and it would have been just fine. Once again, I blame YouTube revision. I am not really sure if I will fix this little oversight on my part in the next episode. Maybe I should leave it as is, so it can act as a reminder to my inattentiveness. If things are really struggling to connect up, maybe try playing around with the tower height. That sometimes fixes it. The cables are not only sensitive to the horizontal angle, but the vertical one too. Okay, time for one more fast forwarding, and then I will pause the game to prevent another nightfall while we need proper visibility on the cables. Now we just fix one missing connection, and we are done with the towers. And the more observant among you already know what these towers mean for our construction industry. That's right, we will need to build them using helicopters. Unfortunately, roads would be simply too inefficient to keep all these properly maintained. Unfortunately for us, there is simply no more room in the construction hub to place the offices we need for this. I suppose we could make this river narrower, but that would place them way too far away from the construction site to automate the maintenance. Plus, the hub is simply not set up to accept helicopters anyway, there are no landing pads, and no room to build them either. We might need to set up a small dedicated hub just for the choppers in the near future. Now that most of the stuff are dealt with, we can move the construction outpost back a little, so we can make room for the central project. I only notice now that I completely forgot to delete that unnecessary factory connection crossing. If I don't get rid of it, things will definitely not work as intended. Let's hope I don't forget it in the next episode. Yeah, to nobody's surprise, there is no room to go under this conveyor belt. I guess the roads will just have to go around. It seems the cables are in the way. We can sever the connection for a bit, place the road, and then build a new tower that can go over it. Here, I decided to include a bus stop. I am fairly certain we will not need it once everything's finished, since we will use trains to bring in the workforce, but just in case things get a bit too spread out, we should still include it. It's better to have it and not need it, than to need it and not have it. We will definitely need to use conveyor towers to get over these tracks going to the waste collection station, so might as well get it out of the way. And I think this is all we have time for. There are a couple things that still need fixing, namely that factory connection crossing, which I included by accident, and we should seriously consider building a bigger aggregate storage for the iron ore, and use 2 processing stations to keep up with the demand in the steel mill. In previous games, we always needed 2 of them, although I don't really remember the yield percentages we had on those mines. Still, it won't hurt to be ready. Either way, we should have most of the things in place. 1 cable car will deal with the extracted iron ore, and bring it down to be processed, and the other line will deal with the workers, and with the garbage. The thing is, I never done this myself, but according to comments, mines generate a lot of waste that we can reprocess into gravel, and that just might be enough to serve as the Republic's main source of that stuff for a little while. Anyways, if you haven't done it already, I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel, and leaving a like would also let me know that this video was worth making. If you feel that it was good enough, and you can afford it, please consider going to my Ko-fi page, which you can find in the description, and donate an amount that you feel is appropriate. And if you did like what you've seen, there should be links to some of my other videos and playlists on the screen. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.